And occasionally I'll come across a young woman who actually has the wherewithal to say, I think I'm up to it.
Right.
And I will do everything in my power to support that effort. But mostly what I see is just like the School of Hard Knocks I had to go through.
Right.
You got to get out there. You got to prove yourself to the guys. You got to make sure that, you get along.
Right.
And then don't back off of your own principles.
This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Hi, this is Eric Anderton. Today, we're going to be speaking with Alecia Wilmeth, who is the VP and General Manager of Alston Construction in Northern California. We're going to talk about how Alecia went from a shovel on a job site to the corner office of Alston Construction here in Northern California. The unique position she carved out for herself during the Great Recession of 2008 and how that had a massive impact on her career. How she has a passion for mentoring women and making sure that they get to fill her footsteps in the leadership role in a construction company. And finally, we'll talk about how she's not interested in her own legacy. Yeah, not the traditional legacy that you might think that someone wants in construction. And so stay tuned for this interview. We're going to have an awesome discussion with Alecia. I think you'll get some real insights into how a woman went all the way from the job site to the corner office and what she's focused on in order to be extremely successful in her career. It is my pleasure today to welcome to the program Alecia Wilmeth, the VP and General Manager of Alston Construction, based in Northern California. Alecia, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We were just chatting a little bit offline, and you have a very interesting journey. You started off on the shovel, on the job site, and now you're in the corner office leading this $150 million company here in the area in Northern California. Tell me, what was it about construction that really attracted you and how you got into the business?
It's interesting, Eric. I came from a ranching and farming family out of West Texas. Grew up in the middle of nowhere, so to speak, and learned that the only way to survive was to work hard. And we worked on the farm all the time. So I hate to say it, but that whole rough and tumble thing about farming and being a kid going through that is kind of similar to what you go through in construction. We worked constantly, and then we did all the combining, all of the, everything that went with that. So we were used to working. And when I came into construction, basically I was looking for a job.
Right.
I was just looking for a job. Any old job. I really didn't care. I wasn't really looking too hard. And I happened to drive by a job site in New Hampshire at the time and said, they have a help wanted sign out there. So I went in and got hired, believe it or not, as a laborer, and was handed a shovel and about a 10-yard dump pile of crap to spread out with it.
So what was your first day on the job site like? When you hit the job site, is it
absolutely horrific? It scared the crap out of me.
Why was that?
Because I was given a 10-yard friggin' pile of dirt and a shovel. And so basically it was, hey, you got to spread this out. That's your job. So while I'm spreading, it was on a residential project. I had a bunch of framers working over the top of me, and they were all men, of course. And what do you think they were doing?
Right.
They were taunting me, Googling me. It didn't matter. They just were trying to make sure I couldn't get the job done. And it kind of got under my skin. And I said, well, boys, sit back here. Let me show you. I'm not weak.
Right on.
And I did it. Not only did I do it, but within 3 months, I was running the job site. So then it was like, did you want to work on my job, you hecklers?
Ah, interesting.
So
Interesting.
it didn't take long to turn the tide on that.
Why
for
do you
me.
Why do you think you were identified as someone who could run the job site at that early stage? 3 months in, going from picking up the shovel to running the job site. What was that all about? You think?
Things got done?
Ah, okay.
I mean, I'm not trying to trash anyone else that worked there.
Right.
I had plenty of support, but what I will tell you is just taking that strong. Someone needs to take charge of the situation. Someone needs to run the job. To me, that is a natural, kind of a natural thing for a lot of women to do, because we want to jump in and make sure things are running smoothly.
Right.
And so there was kind of that instinctual, it's what I need to do. And then there was a little bit of a, let me show you I can do it.
Interesting. So as you were in the field still running work, how did you begin to transition? Because, obviously you're not in that same position now. You're here in a nice office, corner
Right.
office. How did you begin that journey to the corner office from the job site?
Well, I kind of, after I'd gone through that experience there, I took some time off from construction. We'd gone through a pretty big recession back in the 80s.
Right.
And when that happened, it was very difficult. Not only did I lose my job, but I couldn't find another job. It
Interesting.
was really terrible in the construction industry, at least in the Northeast where I was at. And so I took a job with FedEx.
Uh-huh.
And I went to work for FedEx I needed a paycheck, I had a kid.
Right.
It was one of those, we got to survive. And then I found that I worked myself up through their chain of command.
Interesting.
And so over a 10-year period there, I went from being a part-time courier, which is what they call their package delivery folks, up to a senior manager with one of their San Francisco operations and running the whole thing. And so I just kept it didn't seem like any job that I took, I was constantly just going to rise, is what it felt like.
What would you say? So it's interesting because you get to the job site 3 months in, you're shoveling dirt to running the job site. You get
Right.
into FedEx and you move up into a position of authority and leadership.
Right.
Again, what do you think the similarities were between what you learned when you first started to FedEx to even the position that you're in now? What sort of threads have taken you through there?
Organizing.
Okay.
The ability to organize, the ability to see beyond the situations and the issues that happen on a daily basis, being able to kind of sail over those and say, okay, well, that's fine, but we're headed over here. So let's all pick up our bags and get all of our stuff put together because we're all going on the same trip,
Okay.
so to speak.
Uh-huh.
So it was really about just direction.
Okay.
And encouraging people to follow.
Okay. What did you focus on? I mean, you think about it again. You were in a situation where people were skeptical of your abilities.
Mm-hmm.
How did you begin to encourage them? What gave you that sort of leadership authority so that people would actually want to follow you?
You know how they say the proof is in the pudding?
Yeah.
I could drive a forklift like nobody's business.
Uh-huh.
And so, some of these guys that were maybe questioning whatever I could do, I was like, well, just let me show you. Just
Right on.
sit down for a minute, I'll show you.
Right on.
And it wasn't very hard to do, to be able to prove that.
Right.
So I got that entire team following me at that time. After I wanted to tell you, after I got out of the FedEx deal, then I came back into construction simply because I think construction is a very interesting industry.
Uh-huh.
It's dynamic. It's constantly changing. We are constantly keeping up with the next best mousetrap.
Right.
And I enjoy that very much.
So so FedEx brought you out to the West Coast then?
Yeah.
Okay. And then as you got into construction, when you got back into construction, was it in the field or were you more in the office then?
I was in the field. I started back in the field when I got into construction here in California.
Uh-huh.
I was working as a project engineer based on a site. So
Yeah.
I was kind of, the go-to for the superintendent as well as the PM on the site. way back when. So
Okay.
that's how I started here.
And when you were in that position, did you have an ambition? Did you have a focus? Were you just kind of doing your thing?
I'll be honest with you. The way I roll is I'm going to do the best work I can do, and we'll see what happens because
Interesting.
I'm always rewarded.
Okay.
And to me, the most important thing is to be the best person you can be.
Right.
So I did the best work I could do. I didn't overreach. I didn't play politics. It was none of that. It was just tell me if what I'm showing you is something you want.
Right.
And I was consistently rewarded over 20 years to get to where I'm at today.
That's interesting. So it was your focus on performance
Correct.
that set you apart as opposed to a focus on politics.
Correct. Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's interesting.
Not into politics, yeah.
So as you went from a project engineer to a project manager, what was your first real challenge in that role in terms of any sort of obstacles that were thrown in your way that you were able to overcome?
From going from PE to PM,
Yeah.
responsibility.
Okay.
And it was something I had to overcome, obviously. It was part of the job. But it was definitely, that was the biggest challenge was, oh, wait a minute, now I'm responsible for what I'm doing. Now, for me, I already knew this because I had a lot of experience behind me.
Right.
So it was pretty easy to go, okay, I can show you.
Okay.
But it was the being accountable, starting to think about things from that perspective rather than being from a supportive
Right.
role,
Right.
which is more project engineers are typically a little more supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Even PMs can be supportive, but I worked my way, up, realizing that it's not just about support, it's about taking the reins and being accountable. And actually, saying the buck stops here.
So it's interesting because you told me when you first started in construction, you got out of the industry because of the recession in the 80s. We all know a massive recession hit in the mid 2000s here, but you stayed in the business.
Yeah.
What was it that you did in order to sort of stay in the game and keep your value level high to the company that you were working with?
It's interesting. There were a lot of challenges during that time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, me being I want to be relevant kind of person, I had been a superintendent. Now I'm in commercial construction. I'm now a PM in commercial construction. And why can't I run a job at the same time?
Right.
And so that's what I did. I ran, 2 or 3, maybe 4 different projects where I actually set up shop on site, made my little office space, and I was a PM, but I was also the superintendent running the job.
See, that's unusual because, you hear about, estimator PMs, but you really hear about PM superintendents.
Yeah.
So what were you?
It's not that common.
Yeah, how did you balance those two roles? The one sort of more of the sort of the field sergeant, so to speak. The other one sort of the lieutenant.
You know what the beauty of it is when you can combine those two roles, you have total control.
That's interesting.
So I didn't have to ask my PM for permission to do something in the field, for example, because I was the superintendent as well as the PM. So in a lot of ways, it streamlined the process.
So how did it streamline it in terms of your communication with the owner?
Oh, very streamlined. They absolutely love seeing their folks on the job site. And so for them, they had a higher confidence level because I was actually there making sure the work was being done. I'm not having to go talk to all of my superintendents to find out what happened.
Right.
To report back, to recreate the wheel on anything that had happened. I was in it. And so it was really easy to, I could call an owner and say, I just ran into something in the field that you're going to need to help me with a decision on.
Right.
And I could get that on the spot kind of communication going without the the lag.
Sure, no, I understand.
Of having to try and to pick it up later.
Do you think that's a model that would be sustainable in the kind of economy that we're in now, or is it just too much volume?
Right now, I don't see it working very well because there is a lot of volume.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's always a fallback. That's how I look at it.
That's cool, though, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's great to have the talent to be able to do that, and there are a lot of people in this industry that are capable.
Right on.
Of doing that.
That's awesome. So as we came up out of the recession, and you moved more back into the sort of the senior PM role, how did you bridge between that senior PM role and the VP general manager role that you're in now? Tell me a little bit about that, how you moved into that position.
Well, what happened, it was an opportunistic opportunity for me.
Right.
I know I didn't say that right.
No, you're good. Don't worry, we all know what you're talking about.
Anyway, the opportunity came along because the guy I had worked with for several years resigned or retired in this case. And so when that happened, because I was like his number two and had a lot of the same contacts, a lot of the same relationships.
Right.
It became very kind of easy to say, well, we don't want to rock all that, so let's go ahead and bring someone into this role who's familiar.
So you had the relationships.
With everything. So that's how I got here.
You had the technical competency plus the relationships.
Right.
So that's really interesting. It's not just enough in a certain way to have the relationships, but to have that technical authority behind that as well.
You got to have both.
Yeah. So then, as you're in your role, we know as you look at statistics for women in construction, some generous statistics stated about 9 or 10%, but that includes all the supporting roles. So it's very rare, generally speaking, to have a woman in your role running a $150, $180 million company. What are you doing in terms of perhaps identifying and nurturing and encouraging other women into a position similar to yours, as the years go on here?
Well, it's interesting. I'm constantly looking for interns, for example. I mean, we have a pretty close relationship with some of the local colleges and the different CM programs. So we're mining, I guess you would call it, for looking for that new help, that new blood, those young guys that are willing to get into construction and want to pursue it. So we follow that. What's been a little surprising to me is the lack. There are not as many women as I would like to see, even coming through the CM programs in various local colleges. I mean, it's kind of depressing, actually.
What do you think what do you think needs to happen in order for that to change? Because there's a lot of complaints about even few men coming through the CM programs.
Well, true. There's a lot, but we're seeing a lot more folks wanting to go into management now than want to go into field work.
That's true, huh?
So we're still thinking we're pretty happy with the amount of folks that want to go into CM work. It's the field crews, the dare I say blue collar.
Yeah, no, you say it. It's
trades
cool. Yeah, it's okay.
Are the ones that are deeply affected right now.
So as you think about the potential,
and even more so with women.
No, it's a massive issue. What are you doing in your role as a mentor? What are you doing to bring young women into the industry, and what's some advice that you would give to young women who perhaps want to pursue a career in construction that may not just be in a support role, but would be in an executive role or a project management role? Yeah,
I mean, like I talked to you earlier off mic, we had, I've got quite a few women that work for me, but they want to be in what I would call a support role.
Right.
And it's their choice. They don't want to take responsibility. They do not want to be accountable. They do not want the roles that I'm talking about, that I do.
Right.
And occasionally I'll come across a young woman who actually has the wherewithal to say, I think I'm up to it.
Right.
And I will do everything in my power to support that effort. But mostly what I see is just like the School of Hard Knocks I had to go through.
Right.
You got to get out there. You got to prove yourself to the guys. You got to make sure that, you get along.
Right.
and then don't back off of your own principles.
That's interesting. So in terms of the advice that you would give to a young woman, obviously education's a key.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think I'd mentioned to you, I think education is probably kind of a gimme, one of the first cards you can put into your hand.
Right.
If you get the education, you've got that, all right, take that off the table. That's no longer something we need to talk about. I've got the same thing those guys have.
Yeah, you got the CM degree or the engineering degree.
So that's where I think education is very important because you need it to get in the door. On the flip side, though, it's more, in my opinion, it is proving your value.
And how do you prove your value?
Usually working really hard.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for some women, it's not hard because women are naturally multitaskers.
Yep.
I mean, it's hard for me to stay on one thing at a time.
Right.
And it's not because I, have some mental problem. It's just, it's difficult. I always want to multitask. It's part of my DNA.
Yeah.
And you will, women are multitaskers. So it's a little different. We don't go one thing at a time.
So what about now? You guys, Alston, you do a lot of tilt-up work, and
Yeah.
But there's other companies. I have clients who are dirt movers.
Right.
As you're approaching the industry and you're thinking about getting into it, or what advice would you give to a young woman in terms of how she should approach what kind of company she works with?
I'd say go for any company you're interested in.
Okay.
What has worked for me in my career is coming in a little lower position and working through.
There you go.
And it's worked over and over and over.
Why do you think that is? Why has that worked for you, do you think?
I think because a lot of guys don't just believe that women are going to work. They just don't automatically go, oh, it's another teammate.
Right.
It's more like, oh, there's something a little different about this teammate. What's that mean? I see more of that getting in the way of productivity than anything. Can you just stop worrying about whether or not we can do our job?
Right.
And maybe listen to what we're doing?
Right.
It's interesting because, there's definitely there's a cultural bias there that it's going to take some time for that to dissolve.
Do you think that's something as the generation shift will change?
I think so. I mean, like anything, I think it's what happens in California is pretty hot. We see a lot of the country following a lot of things that happen out here. So I kind of feel like I've already come out here to the spearhead of a place that's very progressive,
right?
Which has been wonderful, by the way. I feel like I have a lot of opportunities simply because I'm in a progressive place,
right?
But I'm eventually, I've just seen over the years, this will flow.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And across. So
the last thing I'd like to cover is, we're kind of doing a certain, we're kind of acknowledging there is a difference between men and women, generally speaking, in terms of the way they approach work and in terms of the way they behave. As a woman in construction who's been very successful, what have you focused on in terms of relating to men and doing your best to not only overcome the barriers of sort of discomfort through your hard work, but how have you perceived men, or how have you related to men in a way that's been helpful to you?
Well, usually, what I'll do is...
And we're talking construction here, so construction for years is like
for me, I'll be honest, I think that the benefit that I have these days is the level of experience.
Right.
So it's pretty, I know guys that come to work for me, they're my age.
Right.
And I'm in my mid-50s.
Right.
And I'll have these guys coming in at my age, and I can run circles around them with my knowledge.
Right.
And we'll sit down, and I'll run a circle around them, and they'll go, oh,
we're good.
Maybe I need to listen to you.
There you go.
It happens, but I'm not trying to minimize that. But that's a lot of it is just experience.
But what about the difference?
Which is hard earned.
No, I know that, and that. I mean, that's that goes back to the whole idea of proving yourself and, learning the work, doing the work, and earning the respect by your competency.
Right.
What about in terms of relating to men, in terms of the difference between, women tend to be, generally speaking, more relationship-based.
Right. Men
tend to be, generally speaking,
Way
more
more,
transactionally based.
Yeah.
So how does a woman like yourself who succeeded in construction, which can be extremely transactional, what have you done to help yourself succeed in that environment?
Well, it's funny. One of the biggest challenges that I deal with is I get kind of sometimes I run into people that that don't appreciate the relationship,
Right.
and it's unfortunate because I have worked with tons of men
Uh-huh.
and women who we just subscribe to relationships.
Right.
We want to be honest. People, there's a lot of opportunity that's born out of relationships,
Uh-huh.
in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
And so it was putting the fruit on the tree.
Oh.
And so what's happened for me is I might get knocked down here or there of, oh, you're not being transactional enough. You're
Right.
too concerned about a relationship. That's what I hear
Right.
more often
That's interesting.
than not. And I'm like, oh, that's nice until you need them.
That's right.
And then let me tell you, in 3 months, when this other thing comes up,
Right.
you're going to be going, I wish I had that relationship, right?
Right.
So it's kind of, it's a dance is what I would tell you.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
But my folks that, all of the folks that work with me and I have strong relationships with, that doesn't go anywhere. I don't care, who I'm working for or who the flavor of the day is in the market.
Right.
Those relationships last. And so to me, that's how I look at it. That's long term.
So let me ask you, just as we wrap it up here, Alecia, as you look back in your career, you've been in the business over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
You have however many years left in the business.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to be remembered? When people think about your legacy and the impact that you've made, how would you like to be remembered?
See, and that's funny because I think that's another thing women don't think so much about. I don't need a legacy.
Interesting.
I'm all good. I don't need a legacy.
Interesting.
But what I would like is to help the young women that struggle with the same battles that I struggled with. They're a generation younger than me now.
Right.
Which to me is exciting because you got it. Oh my God. You're a generation ahead
Uh-huh.
with thinking, with, biases, with whatever happens on the planet.
Right.
And, we're lucky enough to be in the U.S. where we have some equal opportunity, which doesn't happen around the world, as we
Yep.
know.
Right.
And so it's, it's exciting. And so what I want to do is see young women do anything they want to do
That's excellent.
and not back off, man. Just do it.
So it's interesting because one of the things about construction that I always love is driving down the road and being able to say people saying, hey, I built that.
I did that. Right?
Yeah, and
you see something.
Yeah, but
Right.
but then it's interesting. Your perspective's a little different when you're thinking more in terms of I helped them as opposed to I built that.
Yeah, I built tons of stuff, and you could also go down the road and say, "Oh my God, I built that," I built that. Or I put another wart on the planet. I mean,
Right.
there are so many different viewpoints on development, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy seeing that I solved a problem, and here's what the solution was. You can see that in concrete and steel and whatever.
Right.
You see it. I think that's awesome. On the flip side, you're paving the planet, right? And so you have, you can have 15 different, 20, 30, 100 different opinions on whether or not what you're doing is good.
Sure.
So I understand all that. What I like about construction is it's challenging. You have problems every day. You have to solve the problems. You have to be creative, and you have to develop relationships.
That's awesome. That's
So-
awesome. Well, one last final question for you, Alecia. What's your favorite restaurant?
Where at? Here?
Yeah. We're here
Where?
in
Oh, I've got a few, man. Really? You want me to say it out loud? Am
Yeah.
I giving somebody a plug here?
No. It's all good.
My favorite restaurant, I'll be honest with you, is Rey Azteca.
Rey Azteca. A little Mexican place, huh? Where's that at?
It's over on Fair Oaks Boulevard in Carmichael.
Fair Oaks in Carmichael, yeah. For you in Sacramento area, Rey Azteca.
It is the best Mexican food you can get in this area.
That is high praise indeed. Well, Alecia, I really appreciate you joining me here on the podcast, and I do wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity, and to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.